Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that I will respect my dad's girlfriend more than my stepdad? Plus update. Original post. Backstory. My 17 female mom, 45 female, cheated on my dad, 46 male, 7 years ago with my stepdad, Alan, 50 male. I was 10 at the time. I knew that my mom had another boyfriend that made them get divorced. My dad was devastated to say the least. My dad fought hard to get custody from my mom because he did not want to lose me at all, and he did end up getting 50-50. Ever since my parents' divorce, I hated my mom. I hated that she hurt my dad. I remember my dad drinking himself to sleep after the divorce. I was 11 and had to push him out of the couch and clean his vomit. I saw what my mom did to my dad, and my stepdad was also to blame for it. My dad did clean up and started to make changes in his life and became a good father figure for me, but he still suffered from the aftermath of my mom's infidelity. He was finally in a better place now, and he has worked enough to build a relationship with me too. Suffice to say, the relationship I had with my mom never recovered. I hated going to her place and watch her play family with some random guy. She never made an effort to keep our family together, yet she happily became the loving wife to him. I hated him too. My mom tried really hard to make me forgive her. She said sorry and apologized. I never missed a chance to remind her that she was the one who broke my family. It will make her cry that her own daughter wants nothing to do with her, but I didn't care. I would lock myself in my room the entire time and not come out. I was always loud and clear that I don't like my stepdad, even though he also tried to make it up to me. Any gift he would give me, I would just give it away. Then last year, my mom, Ellen, and I had a huge fight. I called my mom a cheating whore who destroyed my family. I also called Alan a homewrecker and said, I hope your own sons get cheated on too, so that you know what the pain is like. Alan screamed at me that he is tired of my antics, so I left their house and went to stay with my dad. I thought it was so unfair that my mom lives happily ever after, and my dad was left behind to pick up the pieces of our broken home. That's when my dad sat me down and told me that I should have never talked to my mom like that. Sure, she made bad choice, but she's still my mother. And then he told me he forgave her, and it is for the best that I forgive her because it will make me free. My dad went on to explain that in his therapy he realized his marriage had problems. He thought that just because everything was going on a routine and there was silence, he took it as a sign that everything was fine. However, he learned a lot about relationship and himself over the last 7 years and has tried to become someone I could look up to. He then told me he is dating someone else, and he is happy with the life he has now, though there are some triggers. I was happy to hear that my dad was doing okay, and it made me realize I was being irrational. I'm still mad at my mom, but I decided to give her a chance. I said sorry to both my mom and stepdad. I also said sorry to my stepbrother and my half-brother. Things have been calm and cool for a while. I met my dad's girlfriend. She seems awesome. She has 2 kids who are under 10. And though she is much younger than my dad, I didn't care. As long as dad is happy, I'm happy for him. So a few days ago, I was chatting with my mom and I brought up the fact that I met my dad's girlfriend this week and she seems nice. My mom's expression changes. She went from having a smile to frown. She says, I didn't know your dad was dating. I said I didn't either, but my dad is taking things slow. I told her she is really nice and cool. My mom then lashed out and called me a hypocrite. She said that for years, her husband and her have been trying hard to make me forgive them. They went out of their ways to make it right, and I still didn't accept them. But I accepted my dad's girlfriend in a heartbeat, and suddenly she is this cool step-parent. I was angry too, so I blurted out, at least she didn't cheat on my dad like you. I also said that I would never accept my stepdad as a good human, because he is the reason why I grew up in a broken family. That I do not owe them anything after how they treated my dad. That I respect my dad's girlfriend more than I respect them, because at least she didn't cheat on him and left him to pick up the broken pieces of our family. In fact, she is the reason why dad is happy now, and she will always be above my stepdad. I then stormed out and stayed with a friend. I know I shouldn't have said that. I mean, firstly, my dad and his girlfriend has only been dating for 6 months. My mom and dad were married for 13 years, and I felt like I oversold their relationship to mom. But I feel like an a-hole for how I worded it. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Actions have consequences, and your mom was wrong to end a marriage the way she did. I have no empathy for her or her husband. That said, given your animosity towards your mom and her husband, I am curious as to why you were over at their house. At 17, you are of an age where you can choose what parent you want to live with. Why would you willingly subject yourself to such anger-filled encounters with two people you despise? This is not a healthy environment for you, and especially for the other kids living there. That is their home. Those are their parents, and they don't deserve to have their home turned into a war zone by you when you could just stay away. My dad said it is important for me to maintain a relationship with mom. He thinks every child should have a mom. I don't go there often now. I mostly live with my dad, but my dad insists I go there and build a relationship. May not be the same situation here, but I hated going to my father's. We would have drag-out screaming matches, where I would be calling my mom at 1 to 2 a.m. begging to be brought home. She stopped making me go, and my dad brought her to court over it, where a judge called her a horrible mother for allowing me to make the decision to not go. I was 14, almost 15, and I was informed by the judge that if I did not attend the mandatory visitation, that my mom would be held in violation of the custody agreement. So, I had to attend until my 18th and never went back. Mind you, the court-appointed therapist told the judge for my own mental/emotional well-being, I should only have to see him 1 day every other week and work up to maybe an overnight a month. But judge gave him every other weekend, from when I got out of school on Friday until 8 p.m. Sunday. The screaming matches continued but would keep going on until he called mom demanding me to be picked up. She would then make him email her this, so it couldn't be held against her. Not the a-hole. She hurt you and her actions destroyed the relationship between your dad and her. I get that, but I feel like I oversold my dad's new relationship to her to make her feel bad. I mean, I don't know if my dad and his girlfriend would last forever, or that she will not cheat on him later in life. Mentioning that your dad has a girlfriend isn't overselling, unless there's stuff you left out, like gushing about how the girlfriend the best mother in the universe or something like that. That would be overselling. Imperfect analogy. If I casually mention that a new coffee shop opened and it upsets you, then I'd say there is something bothering you that causes that reaction, not me saying that I want to try the new mocha they invented. Well, it was slipped in a conversation. She asked me what I did that weekend, and I told her I went to meet Dad's girlfriend, and she seems really nice. That was all. Now for the update. This is not a very exciting update, but a lot of people have shown me love and support in this community. Also, I need to address one thing. Many people criticized my dad for being an alcoholic. Well, he is not an alcoholic. He hasn't drunk in 6 years. I did mention that he drowned his pain in alcohol when my mom cheated and after the divorce, but he stopped when he saw me trying to clean up his vomit. I know he was wrong, but he has done literally everything to make it up to me. He went to rehab and threw away all the alcoholic drinks in the house. He went to therapy and worked hard on his career. He even got me to therapy. He has apologized for his toxic behavior and also that he tried his best to keep our family together. He has always made an open space for me to express my feelings. I feel safe with him. I trust him. He never badmouthed my mother in front of me. Yes, he still suffers from anxiety, but he has it under control. I hated watching his and our lives getting uprooted. So I don't think it is fair for you guys to blame my dad only when it changed for me. He came clean. He stopped being an alcoholic. But tell me this, can my mother undo her infidelity? Also, I know their marriage had problems, but is cheating the right thing for her to do? And I haven't mentioned a major thing. That is, my stepdad and my dad used to be friends until the discovery of my mom's infidelity. He cut him off his life too. So yeah, you can imagine the pain both me and my dad went through, but I'm proud of him for keeping his head straight. So now the update. I talked to my dad and arranged therapy for my old therapist. I also suggested that we need family therapy as well. My dad fully supported me and said he will look into it. Lastly, I called my mom to say sorry, but instead, my stepdad picked it up. I asked for my mom, and he said that mom has locked herself in their bedroom because she is angry. My mom has this habit that whenever she is mad, she locks herself in a room. I asked why, and he said that they had a fight about my dad. Basically, my mom had a hint that my dad was dating someone few weeks ago when he saw him at a local market with his girlfriend. At that time, I knew he had a girlfriend but didn't tell mom. She took the liberty to track her on Facebook. I don't even know how she got her ID. My stepdad has caught her several times looking at my dad's girlfriend. There were pictures of dad and her too. So their argument was that my mom was basically obsessed with my dad's girlfriend and has been stalking her. My stepdad said it's best that I do not speak to her for a while because she clearly has some issues of her own. Well, I don't know what to say. Some of you told me she was jealous that my dad moved on, and this could just be it. I may or may not post any further updates. So until then, see you guys. I will be in therapy working things out on my own. Edit? For Pete's sake, people. I am really getting tired of people messaging me and commenting that my dad was a deadbeat dad who used me as a nurse. Some of you are so cruel that you guys think that my mom made the right choice by cheating on him and leaving him. To you, I have nothing else to say. You guys are just a bunch of triggered owls who only wants to blame the victim here. No, my dad was not alcoholic throughout his life. It only happened when he confronted my mom about her affair. It only lasted for like a year. And no, he didn't make me clean his vomit. I saw him covered in it. So I cleaned it myself and then he woke up and saw me. I don't know how many times I have to repeat it. That was the first and the last time it happened. You guys only see this part, but there is so much you don't know. He was the best dad that I could ask for, and I wouldn't trade it just because one time I had to clean him up. I don't care now, because my dad has cleaned up my vomit numerous times when I was sick, and he did it without complaint. I cannot believe you guys are so pathetic that you are only fixated on that part, and not the part where he actually cleaned himself up and made a better place for me. He was not a deadbeat or abusive in any ways. Deadbeat dads don't put their daughters to therapy and fight hard for their custody. It's fascinating to me that OP is here posting to vent about her mother, and apparently people are piling in to tell her how awful her father is. Just because that one time she cleaned his vomit, he is a deadbeat dad and a bad father. God, I remember I took care of my dad when I was 10 years old. He didn't ask me to, but I did it because I love him. In a way, this kind of reminds me of the post where the husband cheated on his wife with a younger woman, then left her after having a breakdown when he found out his ex started dating a family friend. Only this time, the mom cheated with a family friend and is now having a breakdown after learning the dad moved on with a younger woman. I get the impression OP's mom doesn't think much about anyone beyond herself. She took the easy way out for marriage by cheating, rather than addressing whatever issues they may have had. She's been pushing OP to drop her animosity toward a homewrecker husband without putting in the work, like going to therapy to repair her relationship with OP first. I think Ellen telling OP not to call her mom is going to end up creating a bigger issue between them. I feel like it's very telling that OP's mother had a breakdown, not over her deteriorating relationship with OP, but over the man she cheated on and divorced, dating a new woman 7 years later. Dad put in the work to create a better situation for himself and OP. I don't understand the hate toward him in her comments. Spot on. OP's mom may have apologized, but it doesn't sound like she understands why her daughter has been unable to move forward. Gifts don't validate people's feelings. They can seem like a cheap gesture to buy someone's pain away. The fact that her mom wanted OP to call her affair partner dad is absurd. She already has a dad. And also, her trying to create a family picture with the exact same setting show how little she cares about OP. She is only concerned about her Disney life, where people suffer no consequences. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdad I don't want his last name? This discussion happened 2 weeks ago. My stepdad brought up to me, 16 female, that we could change my last name to his if I wanted to have the family name instead of being the odd one out in the house. He also told me he would love to share his last name with me and that I might not be his daughter by blood, but he always considered me his daughter. I told him I didn't want to change my last name, but thanks for the offer. He said we could have the same last name though, and I told him I didn't want his last name, that I loved my own last name and wanted to keep it. The story of our relationship is as follows. My parents were divorced by the time I was 1, and my older sister was 8. My mom met and married my stepdad within 18 months. She and my dad shared custody of my sister and me. My stepdad came into the marriage with no children and had 3 boys with my mom, no girls. My sister was older and never saw him as more than mom's husband. He did try, but I think he realized early on that sister had decided what they were and never pushed. But he was more invested in trying to become a second dad to me. There were many times it makes me uncomfortable, once I was old enough to realize what was going on, from the age of 5 pretty much. My dad died 4 years ago. The last year of his life, he spiraled after my grandparents. His parents died in a car crash, and then my uncle died overseas within few weeks of each other. He turned to drugs, and he died within a year. My sister and I were devastated. We both adored our dad and our paternal family, and we lost all of them within a year of each other. My sister got married last year and asked me to walk her down the aisle and dance with her. Stepdad also felt slighted that he was just listed as mom's husband and not a parent in the digital book thing he supplied everyone with. I think all of this has led to this moment. He and Mom both expected my sister and I to see our dad way differently after he turned to drugs, and especially when he died because of them. But he was still my dad, and regardless of that last year, he's our only dad and was a great dad to us in the years before that, and I believe he still loved us both. My stepdad didn't like how I turned down his offer. He told my mom about the offer and what I said, and both of them sat me down and I said I was too dismissive of his feelings, and that I should have given it some more consideration. He told me he's here and he loves me, and he wants to feel like he won't be pushed aside for the rest of his life by me. My mom said I might love my dad, but the way he turned out that last year, I should see that he wasn't perfect, and be more willing to meet my stepdad for a more enriching relationship. Am I the a-hole? Also, yes, I am in therapy. Now for the comments. I have a special distaste for partners and step-parents that push themselves into a parental role to a child without regarding the feelings or needs of the child about it. And I am not even a big fan of parents who are permissive of their partners doing that. I'm sure he's probably a decent guy, and he means well and he cares very deeply for you. But you decide who he is to you, not him. If he cares about you, he will need to understand that this isn't about him, not the a-hole. That's how I feel about him in this. I don't think he's bad for wanting it, but the pushing is too much and it's leaving me with a bad taste in my mouth. Don't let yourself be gaslit into something you are uncomfortable with by people you love, even if they mean well and even if you care for them. You're going to resent them for it eventually. So aside from being pressured into stuff you dislike, you're not even really doing them a favor. Not if their chief concern is for you, which, if you care about being seen as a parent, it should be. Thank you for saying that. I'm doing my best to stay firm while not acting out. Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter to get over what happened in the past? Original post. So for some background and context, I, 54 female, have one daughter, Ella, 28 female, with my ex, Dylan, 57 male. Dylan and I amicably divorced when Ella was 4 years old. A few years later, I married my now husband, Jack, 55 male. He was a single dad of 2 kids, Jason, 25 male, and Sophie, 27 female. Jack and I also have a daughter, Bella, 17 female. And this story is about Sophie and Ella. I always thought since they were closer to the age, they would get along really well. And I was right. They were like best friends, and we were really happy in our blended family. When Ella was in college, she met this guy, Brian, 30 male, at a cafe where she worked. They started dating, and I was happy for Ella. Brian even proposed to Ella in front of our whole family, and it was very romantic. Everything was fine until one day, Ella came to our house screaming at Sophie. She claims that Sophie has been sleeping with Brian. I told her she must be joking. Sophie would never do that to her. There was a lot of screaming until Sophie finally said that she and Brian are in love, and this caused even more commotion. We did have an extremely hard conversation with Sophie. She showed her remorse and was very guilty. We then tried to talk to Ella that Sophie was sad and maybe she should forgive her. But Ella was having none of it. She went on to more screaming and bashing all of us that we are abandoning her and picking Sophie. That is not the case, as I tried to make it as peaceful as possible, but Ella didn't want that. When Ella and Brian broke up, he started dating Sophie and got engaged within a year. Sophie wanted Ella to be her bridesmaid, but Ella just said, "over my dead body." I thought it was really cruel of her to say that, and she's being petty by holding on to the past anger. Needless to say, she didn't come to the wedding. Rather, she left the city to live with her father. She didn't contact us much except for Bella. I thought she might need some time to cool off, but I was hurt that she kept us out of her life. We only got some insights from Bella and Jason. She only sends me cards on my birthdays but hardly ever spoke to me. I think it was unfair. One day she came to our place. Sophie and Brian were also there. She gave us an invitation card to her wedding with someone named Ray. I don't know much about him. She didn't even include us in the wedding party. Plus, the venue was a 4-hour drive, and the hotels in that area is expensive. We did agree, but at the last moment Jack got sick, and I had to cancel it. When I told her the reason I cannot come to her wedding, she told me to not bother, that she made a right choice by not including me in her wedding, because she knew I was a bad mom. That really bothered me. I always wanted to be by her side, but the place and time she was getting married was just not compatible for us. That was 2 years ago, and she never contacted us again. Then a few weeks ago, my daughter Bella showed me a post on Instagram that Ella was pregnant. She posed with her stepmother with a caption like, "She will be a good grandmother." I was furious. How can she forget her whole family here? So I called her from Bella's phone wanting an explanation. She replied that since I never bothered to be at her wedding, I don't deserve to be in her kid's life. She said it was not just her wedding. She claims I have never been supportive of her, that I do not care about her. She went on to blabbing that she never felt like she had my support, even when she got cheated on, and I chose my stepdaughter over her. I told her it was not fair for her to hold that against me till now, because it was 6 years ago. She has moved on, and Sophie has moved on as well. She is being petty by holding on to something that happened years ago. So did I do anything wrong? Edit. Look, I did not abandon Ella. I tried to be there for her. When she and Brian broke up, I went to her place to support her almost every day. I just think it is silly to hold on to something that happened years ago. I get that she didn't want to be a bridesmaid, but she could have attended a wedding. I never pressured her. Yes, I was disappointed, but if she politely declined, I would have never thought it was cruel. And I tried my best to attend her wedding. We booked the hotel too. But Jack got really sick. We did apologize and promised to make it up to her in some ways, but she rejected it. Now for the top comments before reading the update. You're the a-hole. What Sophie did to Ella was not petty or inconsequential. You shouldn't have supported and forgiven Sophie so easily after her act of betrayal. You're lucky Ella ever kept in touch with you at all. Was Jack really sick? Or was he bitter about Ella not attending his daughter's wedding, so this was an excuse that Opie came up with to justify not going? Why does a grown man need Opie to stay home with him when he's sick? I'm with you, that is a massive BS. How can you even ask if you're the a-hole here? It's pretty obvious, and your daughter spelled it out for you. And I think calling you an a-hole is putting it kindly. You did choose that cheater's side over your firstborn child's, who was the person hurt in the situation. Then fairly quickly you tell her to get over it? This wasn't some puppy love high school situation. They were engaged to be married, and your a-hole for stepdaughter slept with her stepsister's fiancé. This is some Jerry Springer / Jeremy Kyle garbage. Then you accept the scumbag who cheated on her into her home and supported his and your stepdaughter's relationship. Your emotionally tone-deaf stepdaughter then asks her to be a bridesmaid at her and her own ex's wedding, which should have been hers in the first place if they weren't such a-holes. And you think you have the right to be offended on her saying over her dead body? Let's say your sister screwed your husband and everyone took her side. How would you react? Your daughter rightfully went low/no contact for her own emotional and mental health, offers you an olive branch to attend her wedding. And your husband gets sick, a specified kind of sick might I add, which means likely it wasn't life-threatening or requiring hospitalization. You're butthurt of not being involved in the wedding party, so you decide to skip her wedding and olive branch over ego. You find out after years of no contact she is pregnant and think you have a right to be involved after all that, after you've repetitively put everyone else above your own child in every way. You're not only an a-hole, but delusional, and dare I say a narcissist. I hope she sticks to her guns and stays away from you. Kudos to her for knowing she's worth so much more than the BS you're parading. Why is everyone's feelings, including your own, more important than hers? A-hole. I wonder if Opie was the former mistress to her husband. Mostly people who support cheaters are cheaters themselves. And now for the update. Hi guys, this is Bella, 17 female, the half-sister, and I'm writing this update to clear things out. Basically, this whole argument with Ella being pregnant happened 2 months ago, and there have been fights and crying from my mom's part. I tried my best to explain to her that what she did was over the line, and she cannot expect Ella to be okay with it after my mom hurt her. My mom still insists Ella is being unfair, and she thinks every other person would agree with her. Lol. So I gave her just that. I've been on Reddit for 3 years, and I have seen how many people tear apart people like mom. So I told her that she should post it anonymously on Reddit. I did help her in the steps to make sure she includes everything, but she still left out some parts. I challenged her that nobody thinks she's right after the nonsense she pulled. It was hilarious to see my mom reacting to the comments. She genuinely thought people would be on her side, lol. She read the comments for 3 hours. You guys even PM'd her, and those were a cherry on top. Seeing how people actually see her, she literally cried her eyes out. Though she's still in denial and keeps saying they don't know anything. Well, she had a breakdown of how cruel some comments and the PMs are. My dad came home and saw mom crying and scolded me for airing our dirty laundry, and my mom demanded I delete it. Instead, I deleted the Reddit app from her phone, but now I am writing this for you guys. I must say, Reddit did not disappoint. I have been reading all the comments, and they are entertaining. My mom refuses to look at them. She's a lost cause, but I am here to clear things out a bit. I am the observer of my family, so I have observed a lot of things. First of all, my mom didn't cheat with my dad as far as I know, since some of you are suggesting. The divorce with Ella's dad was amicable, but that's what I heard. My mom has this weird obsession with having twins. She always wanted twin girls, but that never happened. Since Sophie and Ella are almost the same age, my mom pretended that they are twins. I think she created this whole fantasy in her mind that Ella and Sophie will do everything together and have a matching life. And though Ella and Sophie never had a bad blood, they were far from being twins. They were like normal people. But my mom still wanted a twin lifestyle for them. Also, just like you guys pointed out, mom is the type of person who is family comes first. She wanted Ella to forgive everything and be okay with Brian and Sophie, so that mom can show it off to people that in our family, we always forgive and forget, no matter how crappy the other person is. And Ella was ruining that Disney musical fantasy for my mom. My dad only cared about his bio daughters. Though he was never mean to Ella and always loved her, blood comes first to him as well. Jason pretty much doesn't care. He and Sophie were not that close. Neither was Ella and him. I'm close with Ella though, and the only reason I showed that Insta post so that I can show mom what Ella's doing is she always asks me about her life. I thought this would bring some form of accountability from her part. But no, as you can see, I was wrong, and I take full responsibility for it. Second thing, mom and dad did berate Sophie about her affair with Brian. Sophie started waterworks, that she will do anything to gain forgiveness from Ella. Sophie even said she will cut off all contact with Brian, but Ella was having none of it. I think my parents got manipulated by the fake waterworks of Sophie. That's why they kept pushing the forgiveness on Ella. And you guys ask what happened to Jack, my dad. Well, he fell down the stairs and hurt his back. I wasn't there because I was a bridesmaid at Ella's wedding, so I was spending the whole week there in her town. Sophie and Brian were not invited. Jason was out of town too. But I still think if mom made an effort, she could have easily made it to the wedding. She did try to say sorry and offered to pay for their honeymoon, but I don't think that is enough. I mean, it was her daughter, for God's sake. Lastly, my mom lied. Sophie and Brian are not a happy couple. Lol. They look like they are in the brink of divorce. My mom still has no idea that Brian cheated on Sophie with a stripper on his bachelor party. And Sophie forgave him because it was his bachelor party, so it doesn't count. I knew that she also cheated on him at her bachelorette party too. I don't have the evidence, but I just know. A month ago, Sophie decided that she would also try for a baby, and I am willing to bet that Brian will skip town when that happens, or he will not be the father. But we shall see. Also, I am sorry for dragging you guys to my family drama. I just wanted mom to see that she is wrong. She tried to save her behind by replying, but you guys just tripped her a new one. Sorry if you felt deceived that someone else coerced Opie to make a post. So I am being clear once and for all. The first post was made by my mom. This update is being written by me, Bella, the youngest sibling. If you guys have any questions, I will try my best to answer them. Sometimes mothers really are delusional and don't think about the effects their actions have on their daughters. I hope Ella gets her fairy tale life. She deserves it after everything. Sophie and Brian are perfect for one another. Let them be miserable together. The fact that their marriage lasted 5 years is astonishing, but it is now hanging by a thread. If anything, Brian did Ella a favor. I always thought the guy was a bluff. I wonder if the twin life your mother pushed on Sophie and Ella was the reason for Brian and Sophie cheating together. If their lives were supposed to be identical, and Sophie was jealous that Ella is something she didn't, it sort of makes sense. And Brian is total trash for going along with it. I also hope you are okay. Being caught in this weird middle of family drama is hard. If your mom is anything like mine, having a different opinion than her is almost world-ending. Don't let your mom or Sophie bully you into placating them. Wow, so your mother won't take any accountability for her actions, plays the victim, and just straight up lives in a fantasy. Also, someone should tell Sophie that when a man married his mistress, he created a vacancy. I don't think there is a vacancy in the mistress position anymore, lol. but the option is unlimited. I figured your mom out in her first paragraph, as soon as I saw she had 2 daughters named Ella and Bella. I'm sorry, but your mom is straight trash. The stuff that she's put your sister through, just to keep a fake image for people who are probably some miserable, judgy people, is astonishing. Your mom has no clue that Brian cheated on Sophie? You should tell her. It might help her see the type of person Brian is. It may also help her realize she chose liars and cheaters over Ella. Even better, it'll break the everyone else is happy and has moved on fantasy she has in her head. That's part of the reason why she wants Ella to forgive Sophie and Brian so bad too. She thinks everything is peaches and cream. She needs that fantasy broken. I'm also sure that's not the only time he has cheated on Sophie either. I hope Ella's doing well. She deserves the best and more. Has Sophie seen these? To know what Reddit thinks of her and her stepmom? I don't think so. Mom only uses Reddit to see news and political stuff. She doesn't post in her normal profile, so I created this throwaway just for this reason. Sophie doesn't know, and Mom told me to delete the account and post. But I guess I will have more fun with it now. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not attending my sister's wedding after she almost didn't invite me because I'm under 18? My 17 female sister, 24 female, is getting married in the fall. When she and her fiancé started planning things a few weeks ago, they said it was gonna be no kids. I didn't think anything of that at first. I assumed she meant like 13 plus or something like that. But that was weird though, because she never came to me about anything wedding related like she did with the rest of the family. So last week, I asked her if she needed help with anything and asked if she wanted me wearing a specific dress or something like that. She said no. Why would I? As I'm not going. She explained that no kids means no kids, no exceptions. So I'm too young by 3 months to attend. I was really hurt by that and told our parents. They didn't know I wasn't invited, so my dad told her either she lets me come or she's not getting their half of the money. She did invite me, but she made a big show of how she didn't want me there. So I said screw it, don't bother. Since she don't want me there, I won't be. She just shouldn't expect things to go back to normal after this. We used to be really close, and we text a lot even after she moved out. Not anymore though, as I blocked her and everything and I'm not speaking to her. I don't know if our relationship can recover from this, but if we do, it's gonna be up to her to fix it. My parents say I'm overreacting, but this really hurt me. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. 3 months shy of 18? Nope. Your sister is something else. Let her explain to the whole family why you're not there. You are absolutely not overreacting. I just don't understand why she would do this if you girls actually had a good relationship. Is it just the two of you? Are there any other siblings? If there are, how do they feel about this? Is there a possibility your future brother-in-law doesn't like you? That he could be the reason why she's acting this way? Whatever happens, whether you decide to actually go or not after all her theatrics, keep your head high. You've acted in such a mature way. I hope your parents do not force you into going after all this. Yeah, but the problem now is that Bridezilla can now say, but my sister was invited. She just didn't come because we forgot to put her name on the invite. She'll likely attempt to spin it to avoid looking like a meanie. I accept child-free weddings are a thing, and couples have a right to choose who to attend. But the way this was handled was awful and mean. To not have that discussion and expansion up front. Yeah, nah. Not a-hole for OP. I'd go low contact too. Not a-hole. I understand child-free weddings, but I truly did not understand why she wouldn't invite her sister if you really were that close. She's having the best day of her life, and she is actively telling you you can't be part of it, and can only begrudgingly come because she won't get money if you couldn't? That's selfish and greedy. Is there any reason to consider her fiancé talked her into not making an exception for you? Maybe. He doesn't like me, but he's never come off as controlling or anything. Info. How is your sister reacting to the blocking and cutting contact? I don't really know. My parents say she feels bad, but she hasn't shown up or tried to apologize through them. I told my sons I wish I never gave birth to them. I don't regret it. I don't feel bad. I don't care how many times you come to my door to apologize. I let them and their father bully me for years, call me all kinds of names. How they reject every present I ever bought them because it wasn't brand new or super expensive, despite me having to go hungry sometimes to even afford what I could get them. I come to their father's house one day to say happy birthday. They ignore me. I tried to give them a hug. I got pushed away. Their father told me to stop annoying them on their 16th birthday, for God's sake. I got them both Nintendo Switches for their birthday, and I set my carefully wrapped present on a table and they opened it last. When they saw it, they said, "Really? That's it?" I looked confused and asked what was wrong. Was it a color this time? Or maybe they expected games too? No one freaking plays Nintendo, you freaking dinosaur. They said dinosaur. You guys never text me. I didn't know what you wanted, and I know you broke the one you shared, so I got you both your own, I told them. They set the presents I had to starve myself for on the table, and everyone went inside for the cake. I finally realized they don't care. They really don't care. Why it took me years to realize, I don't know. But I do know. I took the Switches and headed for the door. Their dad stopped me in front of everyone and said, "Hey, where are you going? You're leaving your kids on their birthday? Let her go. It won't make a difference," one of my boys said. Everyone laughed. Everyone freaking laughed. I started to tear up, and my son's aunt told me to stop being a big baby and hold the phone for pictures. I got angry and I yelled in front of everyone, "I hate you. I hate you all. I'm tired of this family mistreating me, using my trauma against me, making me feel freaking small because I'm not rich and spoiled. I've done nothing but love this family. But because I'm built like a child, I can't sit with the adults. No one came to my birthday, so why should I be here? No one cares about me, but y'all won't bat an eye if I freaking died, would you?" Then I looked my boys dead in their eyes and said, "I hate you both too. I wish I never freaking had you." Ran out to my car and left, then I blocked them all. The next day, I heard a knock on my door and saw my kid's father. He begged me to come to his house and talk to our kids. He says they're so sorry. Yet I've never heard this come out of their mouths, so I'm not interested. That was 3 days ago, and ever since, he comes to my door and asks me to forgive them. But I won't. Don't think I can. I'm sorry for any errors. I'm kinda shaken up. Their father left an hour ago, so it's still on my mind. Now for the top comments. Screw them, and a father who probably modeled this behavior and let them get away with it for years. Drop the rope. Don't spend another dime on them. Don't give them the time of day. They made their choice. They can learn to freaking live with consequences. I'm so sorry for everything they've put you through. You didn't deserve any of it. I definitely recommend therapy to help you come to terms with what they did and move on for your own sake. Thank you very much, I will. Only reason I stayed for so long is because they were my boys, my only kids. I truly believe they will one day change, but I will not be there to witness it. I tried already. Don't set yourself on fire to keep them warm. What an awful family. Freaking agreed. I know that kids can be a-holes. When I was a kid, the idea that my mom would occasionally work double shifts or go hungry to save money just to buy me and my sister something nice just did not enter my head until embarrassingly late. Man, did I feel embarrassed in my early 20s, when it finally fully sunk in just how much my parents sacrificed for me and my sister. So OP, if it helps, unless they're complete psychopaths, just remember that they will recall their attitude and cringe when they're older. Cringe hard. In my case, I called my mom and told her everything I appreciated about her and apologized for being an a-hole in my teens. That being said, it's a small comfort right now. Just remember that there are people on this very website who would kill to have a mother like you. It's BS that this ever even happened without another family member stepping in to teach them how to behave appropriately. Ungrateful little turds I can forgive, but husband and other relatives who couldn't say even, "Your mom worked very hard for this. What did you buy her?" is something else. Edit. Also, if this has been going on for years as you said, your rant is completely deserved and on point. I cannot believe that their dad watched this for years and ignored it. If we were in that other sub, I'd say everyone sucks here except OP. Your kids are brats, and I don't know if they did not grow up with you, but they don't know what respect is because no one teach them or educate them. So if they don't love you because you don't give them expensive gifts, then they don't deserve your love. Sorry. And the one should be at your door is them, not their father. Don't contact them until they apologize and really mean it. Thank you. No, they didn't grow up with me. Me and their father agreed they will live with him when they were born because I didn't have the money to take care of them. Me and their father broke up because he hit me, and I had enough sense to leave. I was already pregnant too. He was either mad at me for leaving him or he told them something. I don't know, but they never really liked me, but only recently started acting like bullies when they were 13 to 14. Now for the comment from the aunt. Do not believe her BS. I am the sister of the father in the post and all of this is a lie and this is not how this went down. Mia, stop lying on my family. You know this is not true, hence why you deleted your account. I'm trying to upload my side but the sub is not letting me. But please believe me, she's lying. How do we know you're not lying? Give us what you think is the truth. Well, for one, my brother never hit her. He held her down because she was losing her mind in my house. She's very mentally unstable. It's also why we told her we were gonna fight for custody for the boys, but she didn't want to fight. So we agreed she would visit. So did the kids complain about the gift? No, they were very happy. They said thank you and moved on. She was upset she wasn't the center of attention for longer and they didn't kiss her boots or something and freaked out. Now for the post from the daughter that was never mentioned in the original post about what truly transpired, titled, I hate my mom and how she convinced thousands of people that she's the victim. I, 23, female, am no longer in contact with my mom, Jane, because of years of mistreatment, manipulation, fear-mongering, and hatred. I was conceived through a one-night stand. Jane couldn't get in contact with the guy and so carried and raised me as a single mother until she met someone. And God did she let me know about it. She made sure to tell me how unwanted, unlovable, and disgusting I was. She admitted to neglecting me as an infant and toddler, and how she would essentially have screaming matches with me. When I was 5, she met William and they fell in love. They got married within a year, and William adopted me after his twin sons, John and Oscar, 16 male, were born. I was 7. Their relationship moved very fast and I believe it caused a lot of turmoil. I truly believe the pregnancy was to trap William, but that is speculation and opening a whole can of worms. During the pregnancy, Jane would have tantrums about having twins, how she only wanted one and how she'd only love the first one that came out. This was a new side to her that William hadn't seen before and he shut it down quickly. Well, she kept her promise and only gave attention to Oscar. John was completely neglected by her other than to feed. She had intense postpartum depression and that's not her fault. But what is how she handled it. She refused to get help and claimed PPD/postpartum psychosis is for insane and bad mothers. At some point when the boys were a year or so old, she was admitted into hospital for having intense thoughts about hurting herself or others. She was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and PPP. She spent 5 months in a hospital/a mental health facility. For those 5 months she was gone, I have never felt so much love from another person in my life. Bearing in mind, I was just 8, and all I had known was yelling and emotional abuse. When she got out, both sides of the family had a big sit-down and told her their expectations. It was all doable. Go to therapy, take her meds, and they made her a list of emergency contacts who she could call if she was feeling it all a bit too much. She had a support system in place, but she didn't use it. We moved out when William got home and found me at age 11 trying to cook dinner for my brothers. Except Jane had turned the gas and electric off as punishment. Jane had locked herself in the bathroom and wouldn't come out because John was upset. Remember, she hates John. She had also thrown a ton of stuff around in a fit of rage because I said she probably shouldn't take Oscar to the shop if she can't walk straight. William packed our stuff up and we left for his mother's. Jane was not happy about that. When he found out she had thrown objects around and at me, he was furious. He filed for divorce the following Monday. The court gave him full custody with mandated visitations from Jane. I remember crying myself to sleep when I found that out. We moved out of Grandma's house and into a nice flat where we seemed to get our life together. Other than the visitation, we were good. Until William got a new job and we had to move across the city. This set Jane off, who up until this point had been on mostly good behavior. We moved closer to William's sister and her family. They all knew about Jane, and was on a contact list. But we all tried to move forward. Things were good for a couple of years, but then I turned 16. The day after my 16th, I got a text from Jane telling me that she's moving out and that I need to pack up my stuff from my old room. I went, stupidly, and began putting things into piles. Jane just stood in the doorway and eventually began bawling her eyes out. She began apologizing for everything she had done and how she feels like a failure. This is when she told me about the emotional and verbal maltreatment she inflicted on me as an infant/toddler and how she blames herself for my numerous mental health issues. This was all leading up to her asking if I could ever forgive her. I said no. I said that she may feel guilty, but she's stuck in this cycle where she has harmed the boys as well. She lost her freaking mind and kicked me out. It got a little physical between us, and she ended up screaming that I'm no longer her daughter and how she's disowning me. When I got home, I told William everything. He was furious too and went to her place and arrived back home hours later with our stuff. I don't know what went down, and I don't want to. We filed a police report as I had scrapes and bruises and her mandated visits were lifted. A weight had been lifted off my shoulders. It was like this black cloud of negativity had finally eased up. I felt so much happier. I began to focus on school and my family without dreading having to see her. We couldn't get a restraining order, but she kept her distance. She would send birthday and Christmas cards, but we never reciprocated. The boys know a bit about what went down, but William was very frugal with what he told them. He said he didn't want to inflict unnecessary emotional damage onto them. Then on their 16th, she shows up, which was weird because she never shows up to anything. I kept my distance and stayed in the kitchen, but I could still see and hear everything. I was shaking in fear and had to run to the bathroom at one point. She had bought them both Nintendo Switches. They both opened her presents last and both quietly thanked her. There were no insults being thrown around. No one said, "Let her go, it won't make a difference." The atmosphere was stifling. In fact, it was Jane who yelled and insulted first. She called the twins ungrateful brats, and the second she stood up to yell, William and Auntie began to push her outside. As she was being pushed, she points at the twins and yelled, "You're both freaking ungrateful, unlovable little C-words, and my biggest regret is not terminating you when I had a chance." The party was naturally ruined at this point, and the boys are both totally emotionally destroyed. William left at one point to go and talk to her because she had blocked William, the only one who has her number, but I don't know the specifics. It's been a few weeks since the incident, and the boys are both destroyed. Oscar has become a recluse and John isn't eating. I'm furious. I'm sorry for making this so long. I'm just so mad, traumatized, and upset by the whole thing. Edit. Hi everyone. I'm just popping in to clarify some things that I've been receiving in my DMs and questions in the cross posts. Because yes, I do read them. 1. I do have a Reddit account, but I only use it to post Sims 4 content and I'm only subscribed/following subs of the games I play. A second year of uni has also been kicking my butt, and so I haven't been online as much. I know her post got a lot of traction, but I didn't see it. Plus, it got deleted so it's not going to pop up on suggested sub-posts Reddit is pushing. 2. I did hear about my mother's post from the THT podcast, hence the weird timing. 3. I have zero ill will towards anyone who sympathized with my mother as they were going off her original post. I've gotten many people DMing me about it, and I just wanted to say that I totally understand why anyone reading the original post would think, "What an awful family." It did suck to read everyone siding with her, but there was literally no reason to be mad as that's all the info they had. Obligatory thanks for the support comment. I will be logging out now for my own sake. Now for the last story. My 31 female husband, 33 male, wants me to cut contact with my sister, 28 female, because she cheats. My husband just dropped this on me. I am totally clueless about the whole situation and I am not even sure how I'm feeling right now. The following is account from my husband and I have yet to verify anything. Months ago, my husband bumped into my sister's fiancé. Let's call him Mark, 29 to 30 male, not sure. They were not particularly close, but they know each other. My husband was coming to pick me up for a date, and Mark was surprised because my sister told him she was hanging out with me. This set off an alarm with both of them. I have to provide some clarity before the next part. Both me and my sister moved to the same city for a job. Our parents are back in our hometown. So both of us are very close and spend a lot of time together. Sometimes my sister would just show up after work and we will go for a drink or do something. Then at one point, my sister told Mark she was going to hang out with me again. My husband nonchalantly mentioned it and thought we would be hanging out instead of my sister. I didn't think much of it since my sisters sometimes do just show up. I ended up calling my sister to say I would be hanging out with my husband and ask her not to come if she plans to. My husband and Mark take this as I was helping to cover for my sister. They then checked both mine and my sister's phone. Of course, my husband found nothing on mine, but Mark found some suggestive texts. They hired a personal investigator to follow both me and my sister, and they caught my sister went to a hotel with a guy multiple times. Back to now, I'm really angry. I felt like my husband can't trust me at all, but the circumstances seems reasonable. I asked him why he didn't talk to me. He said if I know, my sister will know and they wouldn't be able to get any evidence. You know what? I'm angry that he is probably right. I will definitely talk to my sister if I had known and talk her out of it. My husband now wants me to cut contact with my sister because he said we are too close and will be a bad influence. Our relationship will be over if he found out I'm helping my sister. My sister has been my support when I'm going through hardship. Now that she's going through a problem, I can't imagine not being there. I also hate that I know I should be angry with my sister rather than my husband, but I just don't. Advice? Now for the top advice. 1. Your sister's problem is self-induced. 2. She used you for cover, clearly not caring about collateral. And now she's risking a divorce from her husband, who seems to be a reasonable person who values honor, fidelity, and the sacred nature of marriage, because her sister is someone who doesn't value those things. And even though Opie was in the dark, she doesn't seem to care that the sister used her for deception and involved Opie's husband by extension. He probably also feels used and dirty because the sister told her husband that she was hanging out with both of them. You're in an awful position and there isn't a great choice. But is this? You can only continue having a relationship with one of them. Do you choose the person who thinks marriage is important or the person who doesn't think it's important? I think the choice will reveal how different or similar you are to your sister. Good point. Getting Opie involved without asking them or them even knowing shows a huge lack of concern for Opie's well-being and relationship. It feels like she doesn't care if her marriage goes down, as long as Opie's marriage does too. Opie seems pretty clear in her post that she isn't really that bothered by the cheating. Of course, my sister has my support when she is going through a hardship. Yeah, that's why your husband thinks you support cheaters.
Update. Am I the a-hole for confessing to my wife that she's torturing me after she got assaulted? Original post. I'm 25 male, been married to my wife, 26 female for 4 years. We've been dating since we were teens. We are childhood friends. At this point, we are together for like a decade. This all started a month ago. I went on to my company trip. My boss urged me to attend a trip because it will help me learn more, and it's a golden opportunity for me. So I told my wife and she said yes, I should go. It's just for a week. A few days before my departure, my wife said she's going to attend a party hosted by her friends. I said she shouldn't attend. She got mad and asked me why I'm restricting her. You see, my wife has become quite an alcoholic in past few months. It has become a problem for both of us. So I said if you drink too much, I won't be around to help her. She kept saying she will be fine, but I was adamant. And finally she said she won't attend and I trusted her. I went with my boss and after 3 days, my wife called me. I couldn't pick her call, but when I checked my phone, I saw so many calls and texts from her. And when I did, I immediately called her. She kept yelling at me and said, "Come back right now, come back right now." I panicked as well, and I cut my trip short and went back to her. When I arrived, she hugged me like never before and kept crying and crying. It took a long time, but she told me she was violated. I asked her about the details, and she told me she was ganged up on by a bunch of guys after she got drunk. Till this day, I don't know who these guys are. I asked her multiple times, but she just said she doesn't want to tell me. I asked her to press charges, and she said no, that it will ruin her life even more. This is going on for a month now, but a week ago she went full-on crazy mode. She's basically glued to me. Even during shower or bathroom, I see her everywhere. She went as far as locked our house from the inside. I talked to my boss and explained, and he gave me some time to fix it all. Yesterday, I told her she's going too far. She had locked me and herself in our bedroom and didn't let me go anywhere. When I asked her why she is doing this, she said she's scared that I will abandon her. She hugs me so tight even I feel uncomfortable. And when I had enough, I said that she's torturing me. You don't tell me anything. I'm trying to help you, but you don't care. After I said this, she's crying nonstop. And if this goes on, it's going to cost me my job. I won't even be able to feed myself. Forget about feeding her. But the way she is, I think I went too far. Did I say something I shouldn't have? I don't understand anything at this point. Now for the top comments before reading the update. This is way above our pay grade. You calling the local assault hotline would get you in touch with resources that should be applied to both you and your wife. And it wouldn't require reporting it to authorities. You can't fix this yourselves. The dude needs to get that poor woman to a doctor and a therapist pronto. From the recent onset of her alcohol issues, this incident is just the latest. I agree. She is drinking out of nowhere for a reason. I think there is something more than what just happened on his trip. The fact that she won't tell him who is also concerning. She was at a friend's house. I hope it wasn't any of the husbands. You both need counseling. Badly. You need to be prepared for any details that come out. No police, no reports. I don't want to tell you who did it. It doesn't sound good. You think it was family members? Or some people powerful in town / related to the police? Maybe mutual friends are his. It can be anything. Have you talked to a single person who was at a party? Because I'm sorry, but a lot of this doesn't make sense. She was at her friend's house. She got banged on, and not one of her friends had reached out or said anything? Was more likely a gang rape at a party or cheating at a party. Surprised this doesn't have more upvotes. She cheated on bro and is spiraling with the guilt. The not wanting to report it, to not saying who it was, etc. is all just covering for the if I call the cops, they'll say it was consensual and my husband will know I cheated. Now for the update 3 weeks later. I posted my situation last month, and if anyone just wants the LDR, when I went on a trip, she went to a party where she got drunk and she had alcohol problem. I urged her to not go because I won't be there to take care of her, but she called me controlling and went anyway. And while I was on my trip, she called me back urgently and told me she got violated by a bunch of guys. So I'm posting again because I want advice. It turns out the party host was a guy she was having an affair with for the past 5 months. She revealed this all information in our couples counseling. She's undergoing individual counseling, psychology treatment for her trauma, and treatment for her severe alcohol problem. What she said in counseling was that she met a guy at a bar and she was lured by his charm, and they would make out and do other things. But when she went to his party, he invited a bunch of guys she never saw, and they did things to her. I don't want to speak about it or explain. And what she told me without a counselor is that she's coming clean and doesn't want anything to do with him or anyone. She realized that all other men just wants to exploit her vulnerability, and I'm the only man that truly cares for her, and she would never ever look at any other man, only me. We had a family meeting where my parents and siblings and hers came over at my house, and they said that my wife made a mistake and is going through a very tough time. She has changed and learned from her mistake, and I am a great man for taking care of my wife, and I should never think about divorce. I was thinking about divorce, and I only shared this with my colleague who has become my best friend over time. And after I vented, and I'm embarrassed to say that I cried in front of her, she said it's best for me to live alone my whole life than living with her. I ask strangers here for advice, like what should I do? Should I accept her because she changed her ways and take care of her, or just divorce and move on? She was having an affair for 5 months. She did not willingly tell you due to guilt or anything. She had to come clean because something awful happened. Otherwise, you still probably wouldn't know she was cheating. Doesn't seem like she cares about you much, except for what you can do for her. She obviously makes bad decisions, but luckily she has a supportive family. Let them take the lead here while you gently back out. You don't need this, unless you want to be tethered to a cheating alcoholic with emotional issues for the rest of your youth and potentially life. Not a-hole. This, divorce. She cheated, plain and simple. If there was no cheating and a bad situation still happened to her, that would be an entirely different story. But that's not what happened. It is horrible something terrible happened to her, but that doesn't dissolve the cheating. Her mental and emotional health does not trump yours. Why should you stay with somebody who doesn't respect you? She changed her ways? No. Pretty clearly not, since she has recruited both sides of the family to help with manipulating him to stay with her. That's so bad it's scary. I would leave her and take at least a long break from all of them. You're only 25 years old. You are too young to stay in a toxic marriage with a toxic person. People restart their lives at a much older age. You don't have to be anyone's psychological support, crying wall, caregiver, etc., especially if she cheated on you. I understand you have no children. Focus on your future and yourself. Get yourself out of this mess. 25 is so young. There is so much time to meet someone that you will click with and love you back. You can meet people through work, running club, book clubs, sisters of your friends, or college classes. Ask a girl to grab a coffee on Saturday morning. Ask a girl to go see a movie. Get out and live your just starting life. Cut out all these toxic in-laws and toxic wife. OP is certainly young and able to rebuild once he leaves, but that is if he leaves. All his comments reveal that he wants internet strangers to validate his bad decision to stay. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to fully support my wife financially? Original post. I, 50 male, and my wife, 43 female, have been together for 7 years, married for 18 months. No kids on either side. Our relationship has generally gone well. We're physically compatible and enjoy each other's company. Honestly, the conversation is not super deep. We mostly have general positive but surface-level interactions. From the start of our relationship, I've paid most of our joint expenses, dinners and vacations, and we both moved into a house I owned 4 years ago. That wasn't a big problem for me. I earn well and she was also making just over 6 figures and was able to buy herself what she wanted. She has a bit of fake clothes habit, but it doesn't really bother me. Over the last year, a few things changed in our relationship. Firstly, my wife left her job. She went out on leave but didn't return. Then we went on vacation, and while on vacation I had a serious medical issue, which meant we had to cut the vacation short. I spent 6 weeks in and out of hospital. My wife was supportive, like driving me to and from appointments, but didn't really engage with what I was going through. A few months after that, I had pretty much recovered. At that point, my mother passed away. I grew up outside the US, so went back to my family for the funeral. While I was with my family, my wife asked me if I'd consider an open relationship. To be honest, the medical issues had negatively impacted our intimate life. I felt the timing was inappropriate and my wife apologized. I came back from the funeral a couple of weeks later and went back to work, but things felt tense. Last week, my wife told me she was running out of money. This was the first time she'd mentioned any money issues. We've never had a joint bank account, but she is insisting that we open one, and I put my salary into it. We've never discussed that before either. I told her that I didn't feel very emotionally supported in the relationship, and I feel blindsided by what I saw as an ultimatum. She responded that maybe we should separate if I'm not going to step up and fully support her. Am I the a-hole for refusing? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. As an adult in an adult relationship, it's pretty crazy to expect someone you met at age 36 to support you without some kind of trade-off. No kids, I assume, so what she's doing all day? She sounds like she's pretty clearly said, I want to sleep with other people, and if you don't support me financially, we might as well separate. She is an aspiring actor. She's been in a few shows, but they pay little to nothing and takes up lots of time. Yeah, that is how it comes across to me as well. Not the a-hole, but your relationship sounds less about love and more about convenience. Are you together just so you are not alone? The marriage is young and may not be hard to get out of, but I wouldn't stay in such a relationship of what sounds like one of those, if we haven't found love by X age, let's get married kind of situations. If she's ready to separate, then maybe it is time to dip out. This hurt to hear, probably because it's truer than I'd like it to be. I don't like being alone. At some point, I looked at all the people I dated and went, this is pretty good all things considered. But pretty good, not great or love of my life. She told you she wanted to sleep with other people when you went to bury your mother. Is being alone worse than that? Sigh, you are right, of course. But sometimes when I hear statements like this, it's like reading about people with terrible bosses who stick out their awful jobs because they don't have any financial cushion. 2 weeks without a paycheck and they're halfway to homeless. This is terrifying for them, and so they stick in this suboptimal situation, even though, in theory at least, there are many better jobs. I was adopted at birth. My adoptive mother, who recently died, was a narcissist who used me. I was smart, and she showed me off to her friends, which I hated. I had no friends of my own. Generally, my childhood sucked. I've made a much better run of my adulthood. Good jobs, my own friends, etc. But my relationship cushion is still thin despite 20 years of therapy. It doesn't take much for me to think maybe nobody actually loves me. I'm not looking for pity. But be aware that just because something seems like an obvious thing to do doesn't always make it easy. That is incredibly insightful and self-aware. Get back in the dating pool. Your friends love you. Girlfriend can be a good romantic companions, even if there isn't deep love there. You deserve better than what you have. Mini update. Thanks to everyone who commented. It's honestly pretty sobering and has forced me to confront some things about my marriage, but also about myself that aren't particularly pretty. We're sleeping apart tonight and I'm going to bed. Now for the full update. Well, it's been quite a whirlwind of a week. After we had the initial discussion, we didn't talk for almost a day. Then we came back with a mutual expression of WTF just happened in our faces and stared blankly at each other. I suggested that we take a time out to write down what was on our minds, that we could have each other read it, and that would be the basis for a more in-depth conversation. So we spent the day doing that. Boy, it did not go well. I wrote about how I perceived she was emotionally absent while I was sick. She really didn't understand what I meant, and I tried to explain, sometimes I just need someone to talk to. Her response was basically, all you want to do is talk, and I felt that was really cold. What she wrote was basically a diatribe, well, that's how it felt to me, about my legal obligation to support her. At one point, she said our marriage, quotes were hers, and I felt particularly hurt by that description. It was clear that we weren't on the same page, or even in the same book, about what the problems were. My wife then suggested counseling, and I agreed. Her therapist knows a marriage counselor. She sent us some intake forms, which ask us to rate our satisfaction with the marriage and the accessibility, responsiveness, and engagement of our partners. It was a miserable exercise, filling out the form and realizing just how low my ratings were. So that evening, I sat my wife down and said, "I scored is really low." She asked, "Should we bother talking more?" I said, "No, I don't think this is going to work." She agreed pretty quickly and we canceled our appointment with a marriage counselor. We have an appointment with a divorce lawyer later this week. I'm probably going to owe spousal support. I'm not thrilled about that, but it's only money and I'll get over it. My wife understands she'll need to move out and started packing. How do I feel about this? Obviously, it's a big shock. At the same time, thanks for every comment on a previous post. It's clearly the right thing to do. There was nothing here worth saving. If she's making six-figure salary and you were only married 18 months, I doubt you'll have to pay support. She quit working and has drained whatever savings she had through her career years. I bet she either has a gambling issue or already has another sucker in the hook. She can get another job. I agree, but still could lead to the judge taking her side rather than his. My understanding is that this is just a calculator. The past year's income and expenses from both parties are plugged in and out comes the number. This is for temporary spousal support at least. I don't think there will be long-term support due to the marriage being short. For the spousal support, maybe the fact that she decided to quit her job could have an impact on the amount of support you owe. Yeah, plus it's not like it has been years since she left the job. I'm sure with a little effort, she could get a similar job in the field. Her resume is not stale. From what I understand, spousal support is based on the past year of marriage, when she wasn't working. Yay. It is half the length of the marriage. So it's not forever, but it doesn't matter why she quit her job. It's strict community property where I live. Get your own lawyer. How long has she been out of work? She left her job at her own volition, and if she hadn't been out that long, you will not owe support with a half-decent lawyer. I find spousal support to be such an interesting concept. It doesn't exist in my country, and I admittedly know little of the concept. But I think it probably should be applicable where someone has, say, stayed home with the children so that the other could earn a living, and so has missed out on a career and would likely struggle, which could keep people with no career prospects in bad situations. If me and my partner split, he would be much worse off than me because he's worked part-time jobs to cover childcare whilst I studied and worked. I think it's fair that he shouldn't be left high and dry after his sacrifices for our family, even if we don't work out. But when you've got access to a high-paying job like OP's wife and have no children or reason not to work, I find it really baffling.